India. In fact, I have heard a lot about InfoSec girls, and I'm really glad for and excited for this particular discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Um, just few days back, we had a discussion about cybercrime against women or what they should do. So we thought, how about taking your inputs around cyber safety for kids, because it's very, very important area which people are trying to tap, but it's still an area which needs a lot of discussion, a lot of talk. So first, we will start off with your book. What is it about? Is your child safe, and what all things you've covered, and what all things were there in your mind when you started writing about child safety?
Uh, anyway, thanks for at least talking about the book. In fact, in 2015, when I came back from deputation from NIA, I joined here as a DCP Trivandrum City. And when I started, on a daily basis, I was getting a lot of petitions, a lot of complaints of online abuse of children. And when I inquired, you know, at that time I realized that most of the online abuses are happening just because of lack of awareness among the children and among the parents. Like I used to talk to the another one striking thing which I have noticed is, like, when the children, they themselves they will come to the police station, and the very first thing which they request was, please don't let my parents know. That is number one. And they wanted that the problem was sorted out without the parents coming to know. That was number one. Second thing was that they didn't wanted an FIR or case to be registered, and somehow they want to just solve that issue. That was one. There was another category of parents who used to accompany with the children, but they had a very big excuse, what I say, that they are not aware of what their children are doing on the mobile phone or on the internet. They are like totally unaware of it. So these were the two types of people which I realized, and I understood that, because of this particular factor, a lot of children were being abused. They were being what you can exploited. Some people were blackmailed, and because of that particular fear, the children were not even able to come out openly. Whatever complaint I was getting, that figure is actually very less as compared to the number of abused children online. So when I realized, I actually just studied those matter, and then I realized the main cause for increasing number of online abusers in India basically was because there is an increased access of smartphone, internet. At the same time, they are not having an awareness, and they are not basically a digital resilient. And that was the main reason which I thought of coming up with a book uh, which can impart some kind of an awareness. Actually, this book name is Your Child Safe, and it is basically targeted for the parents. I used to go to several schools and take sessions and all, but I realized that just a 2 hour session will not suffice. The parents should also be aware what are the things they should take care, and they should bring in these awareness or these precautionary measures, or the precautionary measures to be brought in a day-to-day basis. It's like a socialization, like a digital parenting. Now, if you see the division of my book, it first of all, it talks about the um, major online abuses, major risks and dangers associated with internet and social networking sites in which children are getting affected. That was number one. Then later on, I have put plenty of case studies of each and every category. Later on, I have brought in one point called what are the precautionary measures which has to be taken by the children and by the parents. And after that, I have even brought in the warning signs and symptoms, like Even despite you take a lot of precautionary measures, despite you are very much aware, there are chances that your child might fall victim to it. And in that circumstances, how can you identify what are those warning signs and symptoms by which you can identify that your child is affected somewhere? Later on, there I have also discussed about the legal mechanism, what are the legal provisions which exist in Indian legal framework by which you can get a remedy. Then what are the various platforms on which you can approach in case of such, whether you are being harassed or whether you're victimized. So this is basically the all that book all about.
Great. And when you see so much increase in such kind of cyber crimes and different kinds of cyber crimes, so can we touch upon some major areas wherein we need the immediate address, like we need to address them, and uh, these abuses or risks are increasing at a very large number. We see some or the other case every day, right? Or and I might be wrong, but you know it the best. So do you think that there is one area which is untapped and we need to go ahead and start addressing those things?
If you before I actually coming to the point, which is that one area, I'll just broadly categorize into what are the various risk actually.
Mhm.
It can be basically classified into four different categories. Like first category can be the online risk, which is related to content, content based risk. See, internet, once you start accessing, there are a lot of content which is available on the internet which does not have a censor actually, unless and until you adopt some kind of a privacy settings. So all the content which is available to everyone, so those content related risks are there. It could lead, it could be like, inappropriate contents like pornography, violence video, fake informations, some radicalization, and some. So these are related to content based, like your child get exposed to some content which is not appropriate for that particular age. Another category is basically a contact related risk. When you start browsing internet or start using a social networking sites, then you come in contact with lot many people. It's not necessary that all those people you come across are good people. There may be some criminals, there may be some pedophiles, there may be some exploiters, there will be a lot of fake profiles which is only created to abuse or exploit or somehow cheat. In this particular category, you have like a cyberbullying, you have a cyber stalking, online harassment, defamation. So these are the contact based risk. Then third category comes is commercial based risk, where you suffer a financial loss. Like there are a lot many people who are lurking on the internet just to swindle away your money. So they might go for some phishing attacks by which they can steal your data, your account number, credit card numbers, CVV numbers, and they might take away your money. Apart from that, there are so many other money related offenses, like, even the gaming or a lot of marketing happens when you go from one level to another level. So they ask for money every time. So it is like you suffer a financial loss. And the fourth category is basically the privacy related risk, where right from the childhood you start posting a lot of information, a lot of photographs which can be dangerous at some point of the time. In all this category, I personally feel, see, all offenses are equally bad, but certain offenses, like when you suffer a financial loss or when you are seeing some inappropriate content, that is also fine. I mean, it's not a very uh, uh, lesser grave. But when it comes that contact based abuses, where the persons are actually like when you start talking, chatting, there are so many people who starts grooming the children and all, and later on the normal chatting gets converted into some sexting or sexual chats. They exchange a lot of photographs, and sometimes they exchange videos, come on a video chat, or sometimes even a mock photos and all. Apart from that, there are instances where the person have been into some relationship, and when the relationship was very good, at that time they exchange some their moment photos and all, which later on become as a reason for blackmailing them. So such kind of an offenses which has a little connection of, which has some social stigma attached to it, where the victim or the where the child does not have a courage or feel ashamed or feel very bad to tell even to another person. Like when you suffer a financial loss, then it is very common. They can come and they can easily come to the police station and they can give a complaint or they can tell their parents. But such kind of an offense, as I told, related to uh, somebody blackmailing, somebody harassing, or somebody has posted some photo or video or blackmailing with those things. These things actually has led lot of depression among the children, and so many children have even gone a very grave self-harm, even suicide alone. If you see the statistics of India, although we do not have an official figure, I mean, no official statistics, but Microsoft has conducted a study in 2016, I suppose. It says that 54% of Indian teenagers who are using internet and social networking site are harassed. This harassment could be a small harassment, or it could be a very grave form like blackmailing or sharing of some private photos or videos. Another one alarming figure is that 21% of Indian teenagers who commit suicide have some kind of a connection with online harassment, cyberbullying, etc. So I think this particular area needs to be attended at the earliest, and more so on a on a uh, on a parenting aspect. I'll tell if you keep on going, finding out what are the risks and danger, I think it is much better to educate and be aware on
Mhm.
to 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 safely navigate through the internet.
Right. And you actually mentioned there are certain risks which are like people are committing suicide, people are taking the steps which they shouldn't be, or I would say extreme steps the kids are taking. So, how different this real world challenges that you see, like the physical world challenges are there, and if we compare them with the virtual world, how different they are or how similar they are.
Uh, in fact, whenever I speak, this is one of my favorite to just have an analogy with the real physical world dangers with the virtual world. First of
Right.
all, if I ask you, I keep asking so many people whether we have started living in a digital world. Are we living in a virtual world? So few people may say yes, few people may say no. They still feel that internet is something which is something different from your routine activity. But if you ask me, I'll say that we have already started living in a digital world. We have started living in a virtual world. You just name any activity, right? From the point when you wake up. When you wake up, you see your phone, you see your messages, the way you read your newspapers, the way you collect information, the way you chat with people, the way you make friendship, the way you communicate, the way you do banking, booking, the way you travel, it's all connected with internet. And even marrying people, dating people, it's all somehow connected with internet. Like marrying, when I ask, it is like putting your profile on well-known matrimony sites and all. So there should not be any doubt that we have already started living in a virtual world. Now let us just, when I'm coming to the analogy, let me just go back about 10-15 years back. When I say that 10-15 years back does not mean that internet was not there at that time. At that time also internet was there, but it was not that prominent. Just imagine a situation at 15 years back in a family. If a child is born and a child is a very small, it can't even crawl. You remember that you might have kept some umbrella, netted umbrella kind of a thing on a baby, uh, because uh, because you know that some insect or some mosquito will come and bite. In order to protect that baby, you will be just covering it with that netted umbrella. When your child starts moving, crawling, and you are very vigilant, when you're doing some work, your one attention is on the child, where the child is going, and you're so vigilant. The moment it reaches to the door, or the moment it reaches to the space, you simply just run and you just hold and bring it back. Since you cannot 24 hours watch your child, and what you have done is you have put one placard kind of a thing, one wooden board near the stairs or near the door, so that the child should not step out. We do this because we know that there are certain risks and dangers. We are vigilant, your child should not fall. In your When you are not paying attention, your child can step out and go, and there he or she could risk uh, itself. When the child grows further, when they start moving out again, then your level of precautions keeps on increasing as per the growth of your child. When the child starts going crossing the road, I think everybody might have taught your child how to cross a road. See, your road is not going to be safe. And, I mean, if you think that the road will be completely free from the vehicle traffic and all, then your child will safely cross the road. No, but you have trained your child how to cross the road. You see left, see right, and when the vehicle is not coming, then you cross the road. The moment your child starts going to the school, I think everybody might have told that, okay, please don't land up into some scuffle, or if any person is creating any problem, don't fight with him or her. You can give a complaint to the teacher or come back home and tell us, we will take care of it. So, because again, we know that there are certain risks to that, because once he lands up into scuffle, it could land up into fight, he could get injured. When your child, I think everybody might have got an instruction that before getting dark, come back home, especially when the child is very small. And in case if it is dark due to some reason, catch an auto or taxi, come back at the shortest time. If you have to walk, please don't walk through this particular locality. You take a main road, don't come through this shortcut. Maybe because that area may be slightly shady, or some antisocials may be there. When your child start traveling alone, overnight journey, you might have told that don't talk to the strangers, don't eat anything which is given by some strangers. So like on a day-to-day basis, these particular instructions we imbibe, and it becomes a part and parcel of socialization. It is not that in my family or in somebody's family any risk or any such danger or any such incident might have taken place. No, but this happens generation after generation. Like my parents told me, this parent might have, my grandparents might have told to my parents. So in 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 this entire civilization, or looking and watching and knowing about this physical real world, we have developed certain kind of a precaution, socialization, and safety measures to keep ourselves safe. Now now let us come in today's world. Now what has happened, all the risk, all the dangers, all the crimes which exist in the real physical world have actually migrated. I won't say migrated, but they have shifted, extended their platform online. Now you just name anything, any form of a crime is taking place on the virtual digital world also, with a much more magnified way. Like if I am staying in Kerala, in Trivandrum, and if I am going to my school at Pattam, the distance is 10-15 kilometers. I have to take care of the risks and danger only till Pattam, and the persons who are going to meet me during this particular distance. But when you open the door of internet, actually you are exposing yourself, anybody, all the criminals, all the bad people, all the good peoples across the world. You cannot you cannot just think that, okay, in Kerala or in Trivandrum such kind of an offense does not take place. No, you are wrong. when you are accessing the entire world through internet, the criminals will also have an access to you. So now, when I said that all the risk and all the crimes, all the dangers have shifted their platform from the physical to online world, just ask yourself how much shift has taken place in your socialization, how much shift has taken place in your precautionary measures, or how much safety you have taken those your advisors, your parenting. I don't think so that many have done that. And because of that particular reason, see, it is not that every uh, uh, the society is at peace or it is crime free, not because of police is there. It is at peace because we are socialized to be good persons. We are socialized to be we know what is right and what is wrong. But somehow that particular socialization on the virtual world, what is good, what is right, what is bad, what is wrong, that thing is not happening with the pace by which the technology is growing. So I think that we need to focus, or every parent should understand the seriousness of making themselves aware and even their children aware. And one thing, when I'm telling this, please don't think that internet is a very bad thing or it is a good thing. It's not about the internet. It's about the people on the internet. The way we have a good people and bad people in the society, same way, internet is just a platform. On that, you have a good people and bad people. Internet is like 90% very good, useful in lot many aspects, but we have to take care of those small aspects of risk and danger.
Right. I totally agree with you that we have to safeguard our home first and then step out. And if we say that we are safe because we are all virtual right now. It's been so many months that we are working from home. We are all home. Even the kids are taking schools from home. Like all the schools have come home. So it becomes even more important for us to be more cautious, and especially when the kids use YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Like everyone says that I'm on Instagram, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So it becomes even more important to take care of the child safety. Now, one question I want to ask around that, let's say I have a 5-year-old kid, and he knows how to operate phone, he knows how to check my phone, unlock it, even though it's like a 6-digit passcode. But how to make sure that he remains safe? It's just a tiny kid, but then there are kids who are 13 years, 14 years, 15 years. They have handheld devices, all the smartphones that we are talking about, and they are all connected to internet. How can we safeguard them from all the monsters which are out there? And we can see that there's cyberbullying and so many other things that are happening. And you mentioned about stalking and the money and what all things are involved. So how should we handle all such situations?
Like initially, when we had a comparison of real physical world and the virtual world, I think we should learn a lot of things the way we handle in our physical world. Like when I was dealing with lot many cases, I had come across parents who come and say that I am not aware of the technology. I don't know what my children are doing. So how do I keep my child safe? It's a very obvious questions, and so many parents have to they have this dilemma. For all those parents, I just want to ask one question. In order to keep your child healthy and disease free, do you need to be a doctor? I don't think so that to keep your child healthy or your child disease free, you don't need to be a doctor. In the same way, you don't need to be a tech savvy or a very technocrat or to be very knowing lot of about the technology to keep your child safe online. The book which you mentioned, earlier when I wrote this book, so lot many people they had a lot of apprehension that since the book is related to internet and online crimes, it will have a lot of technology in it. But it's not there. If you have read it, you will understand. See, when I say that we learn things from what we have been doing in a physical real world, there are certain things which we should take care. I have coined a term called armor. Which is my coined term, armor. It's a word, it's an acronym like A. A stands for basically uh, awareness. First of all, the parents, they themselves should make themselves aware. We as an adult, we have got a typical uh, quality. Once you grow up, then you stop learning actually. Suppose if you have purchased 50,000 mobile phone, I'm 100% sure that I think 99% of people do not know what all features are there in it. We never ever try to explore it. There are so many features. So the first thing is that the parents, they stop learning. Now, why they stop learning? Let me just, before I point out that armor, let me just tell you the little one or two psychological aspect by which the parents, they are like, they stuck up by, they prevent themselves from venturing on this particular aspect. There are one category of parents who are actually really unaware and they don't know anything. There's another category of parents who know that there are risks, there are dangers, but they suffer from a typical syndrome called not my kid syndrome. They feel that this kind of an offense will never ever happen to their children. This is something for some another kids. Then third category of parents are there who are like, they know that there is a risk. They also know that it can happen to their children, but they do not know what exactly they have to do. So once you realize that there are risks, there are dangers, once you realize that it can happen to your children, once you are sensitized to it, then the first thing what you have to do is make yourself aware. Being aware is not a much big issue. The same phone can help you make you yourself aware. You just Google it. What are the risks and dangers associated with internet? You'll find hundreds and thousands of articles. Or you can so you make yourself aware which are the most common risk and danger. Third is basically armor. R is again, R stands for risk and dangers. Once you make yourself aware, then you go for what are the risks and dangers, and you go for a precautionary measures. You again getting those precaution measures are also not an easy. The place from where you will get those materials of the risk, you will get those precautionary measures also. Third is like M. M is monitoring. If you remember, when I was giving the example of a child, when your child was small, you have put one small board in front of the door. That board will be useful for the child for a certain age. Till that age, you need to monitor your child. You have to be vigilant because your child is innocent. He or she should not accidentally get into the trouble. So you have put that, you were monitoring the child, and at the same time you have put that placard. So you at a certain age, till a certain age, you have to actually monitor your child. You have to put that barricade in the sense you have to go for a privacy settings in your phone, in your internet. But when your child, these privacy settings and these board, obstruction board, is useful only to a certain age. Once the child grows up, the child can jump that board. Same way, our privacy settings and our parental controls, that will be useful only at a certain age. But till that age, you have to literally try, because suppose if I have a child of 9 years or 10 years, and if I give my phone to her, I might have searched lot many websites. Nowadays Google and everything work on a AI based. Immediately if I type one or two letters, it will depending upon my search previously, it will pop up, it will indicate, suggest which site. Suppose your child wants to go for a pogo game, it types it types P. The moment it types P, then some site of pornography might pop up, and the child clicks, and then accidentally uh, the child may be exposed to certain dangers. So that monitoring and parental control or the privacy setting an age when your child is innocent, till that time you have to use that. Then comes uh, armor, MO. It's third is like fourth point is you have to once your child grows up, then you have to go for a advisors precautionary measure. You have to develop their skill. And uh, fourth thing is uh, there's a warning signs. As I told, once you are aware, you have taught your precautionary measures to your children, you have used parental control, and once they have grown, I mean, they are absolutely doing well. Despite that, your child might get into trouble, and uh, then you should know what are the warning signs and symptoms by which you can easily identify that your child is suffering. Then there's another one point which I have noted down is that you which is like an unconditional support. Please offer your children a very unconditional support, because um, when you were a child, when I was child, don't think that the child in the present generations are like the same child which you were earlier. I was like, when I was child, I was very dumbo kind of a person, and I was not aware of anything. But today's child, they are much more exposed. They are much more sensitive. So you have to give them unconditional support, and you should give that confidence to them during the course of parenting, where they should feel confident to come back to you in case if they have undergone some kind of a wrong or some kind of a victim. And last is like R stands for reporting. Every parent should know how to report, or what are the remedial measures available in the legal framework and in our society where such kind of an offense can be attended. So if you take care of this armor, uh, it is like, you can take care of your child. If I just compare, like for example, uh, again I'm comparing with the physical world. Like I have a child, and in order to keep my child healthy, what should I know? I should know that what are the various forms of diseases like cold, cough, loose motion, or fever. These are very common one. I'm not talking about the tuberculosis or cancer. No, I'm talking about the very common one. So so I know that. Then I should know that what causes fever. Like for example, if my child goes out and goes in the rain and becomes wet, so definitely it will cause a fever. Then you should know what are the precautionary measures. Precautionary measure is they should carry a raincoat, they should carry an umbrella. Despite that, if they become a wet, you come back home, then you wipe your child. And then you should know the warning signs. Suppose your child, how do you know that your child is suffering from a fever? Basically, the body temperature goes up, it cries, it does not eat. So, see, same way you have to be aware of online virtual world. There's nothing technical. I'm telling because with lot of experience, I have been talking to a lot of tech people who are software engineers who work on a cyber security, but still they lack all this thing. If I ask them what is a safe search, Google safe search option, and a lot many tech people do not know. They just simply hand over the phone to their child. I told them that in a In a privacy setting, there is an option called safe search option, where you can opt that, and then you can safely give to your child. Even the child types or something such vulnerable or the risky sites are blocked automatically, but they do not know. So these are various few steps which can be actually useful for parents. Only thing is, the most important thing is they should be sensitized. They should know that there is a risk, there's a dangers, and they should know that they should give away that syndrome called "not my kid" syndrome. Anybody, anybody can be a victim. Not only that, not only keeping your child safe from becoming a victim, but you can keep your child safe from becoming an accused also, because they may be knowingly, unknowingly, they might commit a crime which they think that it is for the sake of fun. So in both the cases, it is necessary to protect your child.
Very well said, sir. So, as you have beautifully put forward, that there has to be a filter as to what we expose the child to and not to. But then today, what I have generally come across in social media with the budding mothers, like new mothers, they tend to put a lot of pictures and information about their kids, and there are various competitions going on as to the most cute looking kid or something. This type of so what happens is the kids start, there is a psyche involved in it. Everyone is looking for validation, be it their parents or their mothers. And later on, it actually, exaggerates this situation to a cyberbullying scenario. Your kid is not good enough, or my kid was better than yours. So, and so on. The cases goes above and beyond. So what is your, suggestion for parents as to how to parent the kids, and not if thereby impact on their mental health, because it causes a lot to their mental health, this type of social media validation that's going on around right now, and with this pandemic it's too much.
In fact, I totally agree with what you are telling, and there's a very famous quote. I don't remember who has told. Your smartphone starts with a nanny. Like I have been going to several restaurants or some public place where parents are sitting and chatting, and the child is continuously disturbing. So the most easiest thing is hand over the phone, put some movie or some cartoon on and the child is sitting, and it works like a nanny. It's like a caretaker of your child. That is number one. Now the second thing is that the parents, they themselves are so much. I call it as TMI. Too much information. We keep on putting a lot of information. Forget about the baby. When the baby is not born, when the lady or the person is in the carrying, since then they will take a selfie and say that, okay, 3 months, 4 months due and all those things they will post. When the child is born, some people might post a photograph of a child, or some people will simply say that it's a baby, baby girl or baby boy. When the child, everything is posted, shared. The first time I came across with a very funny post, one photograph of a child sitting on a commode, red color commode, and the post said that, the first time my child sitting on a commode without help, without assistance. So then there are a lot of bragging also keeps on happening. Oh, tomorrow my child is having a tennis match, and I have to get up early morning, 4 o'clock. I don't know whether the person is actually bragging of the child being going for a tennis competition, or the person is really worried about that he or she has to get up at 4 o'clock. So that is one thing. See what happens, now somehow this social networking or the post has got into the psychology of a person. I can divide it into the four things. The first thing is that people should understand, whatever we post on the social media, that is the best of mine. Anything which is best of mine, I will post it on the. It's not that when I am very shabbily dressed or when I am doing nothing, I will be posting it. I am actually posting the best part on my social media post. But the person who's watching, they start comparing the best of the person with your totality of yourself. So then it becomes a comparison, which there's a term called relative deprivation. We compare, like if I'm having a cycle and I'm very happy with my cycle, but the moment I see somebody with a motorcycle, I will feel bad. The moment I have a bike, I'm very happy with that bike. If I see somebody carrying a car, I become relatively deprived, saying, oh, it's the same person is working like me. He's also getting the same salary, and he's enjoying vacation. He's having a car. So this is called a relative deprivation. So people start suffering from relative deprivation, and they want to get over of it. What you said, validation. Again, there's a term called, it is called a social currency. The likes, the shares, it is like a social currency by which it gives you good feel the moment you start getting lot of likes, lot of shares. So but people should understand that this is not going to take you anywhere. It gives a momentary dopamine kind of a thing, which it gives you give you small happiness during that time, but you are actually giving up so much of information, so much of details, which later on could be very dangerous. Like so many parents, as I told, when they start giving the mobile phone to a child, and once the child grows up and he is addicted to some video game or something, at that time then you wake up all of a sudden, and then you start saying that, okay, my child is not listening, he's so addicted, he is not doing. What were you doing when the child was small? So here again I will say that everybody should realize. See, it is again a part of a socialization only. Like you cannot. We wake up at the age of 13 and 14 years when the child is already started doing everything. It's already too late. You should start right from the beginning when your child, as I told, when a child is a baby, then you start getting involved with along with the evolution of your child. First of all, yourself should be a role model, that what you should do, how much time you have to spend. Once you are role model, then only you have a moral right to advise. So like you're 24 hours on the phone, 24 hours on the social networking site, and you are telling your child that don't do that, don't do this. So that won't happen. Children don't listen to what you see, what you say. Children actually listen to what they see. So first of all, you should understand these are the problematic areas. You have to change yourself first, and then start imbibing or inculcating a very safe online behavior into your children. So many children, and it requires a lot of hard work, let me tell you, because you have to be very, very observant. You have to ensure that it's not so easy. Like I'll tell you an example. Like all of a sudden, when at the age of 14 or 15, now you want that your child should you should know what she's posting. You should know the password of your social networking. That's not going to happen. You should have got involved right from the beginning. You should have grown up with your child. You should have, right from when the child started learning, you should have also participated with your child when he or she has opened the first networking site, social media. You should have also been a part of it. You should have been in a friend list. You should also been teaching what are the do's and don'ts, what are the good things and bad things. So um, again I say that no, you have to be aware. Parents should also know. But we come across, we see that the parents, they themselves are so much into that that virtual validation, looking for it, so that they forget that the same thing is being picked up with the children. Nothing harm. There's no harm in doing all those things. But just be careful about. You should draw a line from where the risk starts.
Absolutely. You've nailed the right point that you should know the risks. Then only you can safeguard yourself. So, uh, do you think that parents are doing enough, or they need to do something? Any tips for the parents so that they can concentrate on child safety? Like, you've seen there are cases which are happening because of the online things that are there's one thing which Vishakha mentioned, that people are posting so many pictures about their kids. And I heard one of the case wherein the child was kidnapped because his or her mother was posting continuously about where the child is going, which school the child is going, which class he or she is studying. So you've come across such cases. So what are the things parents can do to avoid such mishappenings like kidnapping or the things that are happening?
Again, it's uh, first of all, the people should know that what can happen because of what. uh, we have uh, we have n number of stories uh, which has been coming across, uh, happening in our surrounding. I'm talking about the real physical world, like theft, kidnapping, murders, that appears in the newspapers also. Then we have a discussion. But somehow when it comes to the virtual cyber thing, as I told, it is very less reported. And sometimes such offenses we do not publicize also, because there is a lot of a victim himself or herself does not want it to publicize it, so we do not come across the darker side, or the criminal aspect of what is happening in the cyber world. We only hear about the online frauds, online cheatings. But there are so many, like for example, if a child has committed suicide because of the blackmail, obviously we will not make it publicized. So once it is not known to the people, people think that it's not happening in our society. So we should that awareness part is very much essential. The one thing which you told, kidnapping. See, there are lot many cases happening, including theft, kidnapping, just just because the criminal was very much monitoring your uh, your social media platform. That when are you out, when are you traveling, and so many people posting, okay, going on a tour. I am taking a photo at the airport. Me and my child going. So there are so many crimes which have taken place because of these information. I'll tell you, there is another one very classic incident which took place in Bombay. There was one very boy named uh, Adnan. Uh, he uh, he's basically son of a reputed business family. They had a business rival, and this boy was having a social media platform, and this boy was actually posting um, his people have a habit. When you're sad, you put a sad sign and put that I'm feeling sad or I'm traveling this. That business rival was very much following this social networking site of this boy. Their plan was to basically kidnap him. And then what they did, they created one fake profile of some person, and online they started chatting with this boy, and they became friends. And later on, that person himself called this boy out to a particular place for a meeting. So this boy went, and later on he was kidnapped and he was actually killed. Case was registered. What I'm telling is, earlier the kidnapping was very difficult. Like the kidnapper should come near you. they should come near your school, near your home to kidnap you. But now because of the social networking and all, you can easily make this person come to the place where you actually want him to come. There's another one uh, one case which has happened it happened in some different country. It was this girl. The girl was like she was very much inclined towards wild animal protections and all. I think I give this example very much in various platforms. So now one stalker was actually stalking this girl. After seeing the profile, he or she can easily make out that this particular person is inclined towards wildlife protections and all. Then what this stalker did is he created another profile, and he uh, produced himself as he showed himself as an owner of a company, or owner of an NGO which takes care of wildlife protection. And later on, he sends a friend's request. The girl, since she was into that particular liking, so she accepted. Later on, this person offered a job, and she she was happily selected for the job. Later on, I think there was some abuse which happened. Recently in Hyderabad, we have arrested one person. Uh, Again, same thing. He creates a fake profile, and then he tries to be friendly. Later on, abuse, blackmailing things happen. You will be surprised that he was having 70 different profiles, 70, and in each profile he had a different character. In one, he is a very big businessman. One, he is a film director. In one, he's a IT professional. One, doctor. So it's like depending upon the target, depending upon the target's liking. So the friend's request will go from there. The technology is so vast. Like, the more you give information on a system, uh, the more you are vulnerable. Like, for example, I'll tell you, my Google knows more about me than anybody else. Like, Google knows what are my likings, what are the books I read, what are the sites I visit, what all food I eat, because depending upon that only I order. Now, someday I'll be ordering pizza, or somebody I'll be ordering something else. At what time I sleep, because sleeping time is like the moment I stop browsing and my internet activity. So the Google knows that I might have slept. At what time I get up, what is my heart rate, what is my pulse rate, everything, uh, which place I am planning to visit, what is my economic status, whether I'm thinking of going by flight or going by train, what do I eat, what are my I mean, how is my mental state. All these things are known to Google, or your data is available online. So depending upon that, if a child is sad, if you have put a post saying that I am sad today, so okay, this is a time where I can actually give you some comfort. I can ask you what happened. It's very easy to get in touch. So so the more information you give, you are actually more vulnerable. That should be ingrained in the mind, and we should start adopting lot technology. In fact, all these dangers are there, but at the same time the technology provides a lot of solutions to it. Like, when you're posting, no harm in posting, but please tailor make your privacy settings. Like, like who all can see your photo, who all can share your photo, or who all can tag you. uh, so all there are so many privacy settings. Every social networking sites or platforms comes with a privacy setting, but we never explore it actually. And we should also know what are the ways to to report also. Like you can friend, unfriend, block, all those things are available. So if you are exploring and if you want to become a social media star, or if you want to become a social media validation, you want a lot of likes and shares, so you should also explore on what are the safety measures, what are the precautionary measures, what are the risks associated with it, and you should be ready for that. Once you are happily accepting the validation, then criticisms will come. The online abuses will also come. So you have to be mentally ready and prepared for that also.
True. Sir, as you mentioned earlier about the dopamine rush, so there is a term called dopamine detox, which even nowadays the healthcare professionals are emphasizing on, like, staying away from the screen so that you can give yourself a time with nature, with everything, with your family in person. But now with the pandemic in place, we see even class nursery kg students also on screen, and on weekends they have homework. So what suggestion do you have for the schools to make sure that the students are having enough of dopamine detox as well along with the classes that's going on?
We have first of all, we should understand that we should never ever compare your childhood with the presenthood childhood. That's number one. Second thing is, see, uh, when number of things are increasing online, like when your classes have started becoming online, your assignments is becoming online, gathering of information has come online. So definitely the screen time will increase. There's no doubt about it. That is second thing. Third thing is, but yeah, you should know what is being done at that particular time. You have to know. Like for example, if earlier it was told that okay, 2 hours, 3 hours, I'm just telling a figure. Like 3 hours screen time is enough. But nowadays, for 4 hours the children are attending the online classes only. So now the children cannot go out. Definitely they will play some game or something. We all are shifting. Like even this meeting, if this pandemic would have not been there, we would have been doing a meeting physically. Lot many people. Uh, so the online activity will increase. The biggest thing is we should know for what purpose that particular screen time is being used. That has to be very very clear. Second thing is, when I say that you should never compare your childhood with the other, because see, the only thing permanent in the society is change. uh, if you remember, like when you were small, or when the TV came, you see, whenever the technology is introduced in the society, for a temporary, there is some kind of a, we need time to adjust to it. Like when the fire came, or when the wheel came, or the radio came, the people were stuck up to the radio. When the television came, I remember that I was like, um, I was spending a lot of time on the television. That time my parents were telling that, oh, what is going to happen to my child? And but then slowly we got adopted to it, and it takes little time. For a short while it disturbs. And the same way, even the present generation, this internet social networking site, it is the same, that change which has come in, where we have to learn to adjust to it. But there is one difference which people should understand: the rate of change, or the speed of change which we were seeing in the past, was actually very slow as compared to the rate and the speed what we are seeing now. So after the TV came into the picture, I think it was only TV, then color TV, then VCR, then so it took years to upgrade itself. So we had a sufficient time to acclimatize ourselves, to adjust with that technology. But the today's technology, the rate of speed is so high every day something new is coming. So you just cannot acclimatize or socialize naturally. You have to make a special effort, and very consciously you have to adjust. Till the time you get adjusted, the risk and dangers will be very high, because, and especially in the country like India, where at one side person is totally illiterate, and on the other side is a very tech savvy people, and both persons are using the same 4G, same technology, and uh, obviously that risk will be more. The adjusting time will be more. So we have to make a special effort to cope up with such kind of a speed and high speed technological development. What I call it is, there's a term called cultural lag. There's a two term called technological lag and cultural lag. Technological lag is when we compare two countries, and suppose there is some country which is technologically it is not, so we lag technologically, but we are like, we are culturally lagging, because you are getting the same technology what US or European countries or the developed countries are getting. You are availing the same technology, but culturally you have not evolved yourself to to safely handle or safely use it, or you are not aware of what are the good things, what are the bad things. So that's all. I mean, we need to make some special effort for that.
Right, sir. Absolutely. And when you talked about cultural challenges, I'm sure there are, most of the people don't know about that there are laws which exist in our country. There are efforts which everyone is doing to make sure that the people are secure. Like you're working towards child safety, women's safety. So I would want to ask that, is there any law which is there for the specifically child safety? And if, let's say, something happens, for God's sake, nothing should happen, but if something happens where people can report and safely report, and like the way you said that not my child syndrome, but anything can happen to anyone's child, right? We don't know, we are living in a virtual world alongside the physical world. So where people can report safely without worrying about who'll think what.
See, one thing which actually resists people from coming out and giving a complaint is the knowledge that, uh, lack of knowledge that this is a crime. Like if somebody has made any post or commented or circulated anything, the people presume that it is not a crime, and they underrate such kind of a crime. Statistics says that 30% of crimes are only reported. Reported in the sense, I'm not telling the which is turned down in the FIR. I'm talking reported. The number of registration is much lesser actually. 60% of crimes are not reported because of so many reasons. One of the reason is we do not know that this particular thing what has happened online is a crime. That is one. Second thing is, we should understand, again I'll tell that we should know what is right and what is wrong. If I ask you, what is the punishment, under what law committing theft is a punishment, maybe most of us may not know what is IPC. But if I ask you whether committing theft is right or wrong, then I think 100% people will say that, yeah, it is wrong. Not only you or me, you go and ask 1-year-old child that whether committing theft is right or wrong. The child will also say that committing theft is wrong. So it's not about the knowledge of law, it's about knowledge what is right and what is wrong. Once you know that this is right and this is wrong, for everything which is wrong, there is some law. But if you don't know that this is right and this is wrong, then you won't search also that When you don't know it is wrong, then you will never search for what is the remedial measures. So first of all, we should know what is right and what is wrong. Forget about, I'm talking at the preliminary stage. We should know, or your child should know, or you should be able to tell your child what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. That is one. Second thing is uh, uh, regarding the legal framework. First, I'll say certain acts which are available with Indian circumstances. Like we have a very famous called IT Act, Information Technology Act 2000, amended in 2008. So it deals with a lot of cyber crimes. Uh, it's like cheating, hacking, even online abuses, blackmailing, pornography. It includes lot many things. But there are certain offenses which we might be hearing at several occasions that uh, in this IT Act does not attract. But even the online crimes can be registered under IPC offenses also in Indian Penal Code system. Indian Penal Code is very vast actually. There are so many amendments which has taken place where even the IT Act cases also can be registered under IPC. There are so many child specific cases like POCSO Act, Prevention of Sexual Harassment. It is for the minor children below 18. We very popularly it is known as POCSO. Then we have a Juvenile Justice Act where we take care of children's in conflict of law and in support of in need of law. So for the victim and accused, we have a Juvenile Justice Act. So these are the various acts. Now more than knowing the law, what is more important is how to report it. There are certain psychology attached to it which I want to address. First of all, 60% people do not know that this thing which has happened to him or her is a crime. So you should know what is crime, what is good and what is bad. The moment you know that what is good and bad, you will know that there will definitely be a law for this particular wrong. Second thing is most of the online crime happens, it has got a social stigma attached to it. And people are very reluctant in coming out and speaking or giving a complaint. So that is second thing. Third thing is people go to the police station as a last resort. They feel that a police station is a very horrible place, and they will unnecessarily harass, and they will, instead of getting justice, I will be even more abused, more tortured. That is the third thing. So the people go only as a last resort. But I would like to say that now the policing has changed a lot. Please don't go by that filmy projection of police personals. Things have changed a lot. And especially on a cyber crime platform, we have lot many cyber cells in every district, cyber police stations, high-tech cell. Even you can give in a police stations also. And the police personnel are very highly trained and they are sensitive to such kind of a crime. They keep that confidentiality also, and we can sort those. We can find a remedy and find a solution to your problems. Apart from going physically to the police station or the cyber police station, all these unit has got an online platforms also. You can submit your complaint through email. MHA has got a online portal where you can register your complaint with your name and anonymously also. For example, if I came across some complaint or some incident in which my friend is suffering and I want to give that information, so I can file a complaint in that particular portal, MHA portal, where you can give with an anonymous complaint. I can give a complaint for somebody else. Even the Women's Commission of India, Vanita Commissions of Kerala, all have got a complaint registering portals where you can register. So there are n number of platforms available where you can give a complaint. Apart from that, every social networking platforms, they themselves also have a report abuse section in that particular post, where you can easily report to the service provider. Like if you're using a WhatsApp or if you're using Facebook, you can complain to Facebook that somebody is doing this. They are also very quick in responding. So these are various platforms where they can give a complaint. But all these things are useful only when two things are there. One, first of all, you should know that whatever you underwent is wrong and that is a crime. And second thing is, you feel that you have that attitude to come out and speak. One thing which I want to point out, especially those crimes in which the social stigma is involved, uh, where your photo or some image is being, you are being blackmailed because of that. In such cases, uh, it is a fear factor which helps the accused. The accused knows that you are not going to speak. He is actually capitalizing, he is utilizing, or he is abusing that fear. He or she knows that you will never ever go and tell or give a complaint. Please don't fall victim to such kind of a blackmailing or threatening. You have to be very clear that you are not at a mistake. If anybody is threatening, that person is committing a crime. Don't ever react back. Don't ever do the same thing from to the other side. You just record or keep a screenshot of all his threatening and all, and please give a complaint. We handle such cases on a daily basis. When the person become victimized, the person feels that okay, I am only suffering. He or she thinks that I'm the rarest. I may be the only one person in India. No, there are hundreds of cases happening on a daily basis, and almost all the cases are being properly handled, uh, properly taken care. So please stop being victimized. Don't succumb to their threatening and report. Speak. If you can't come directly to the police station initially, talk to some adult whom you trust, your parents, your teacher, counselor, or some known adult whom you can say.
Very well put up, sir. I think this session was really a good, step towards making people aware and parents more aware as to how they can go about security. And, given the points which you have put forward at where they can report and what are the measures they can take, I think we look forward to having a better, safe internet arena out there. So yeah, it was a very, very helpful and thoughtful session. Over to you, Vandana.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really an amazing session, and thanks for being candid about it, because you've told that people have a picture image of police people, but ideally it's actually a different one. So thanks for sharing all the important points which are really needed at this particular time, and to take the cybersecurity as a measure, and rather than thinking, oh, we are going to post everything online and we are all good. So we also have to take a step forward and be safe, then sorry. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. We are really, really glad to have you.
Thank you so much. In fact, the cyber security is such a vast topic, and even if you start talking on one particular topic, it will take an hour. So, I mean, I'm really glad that whatever was discussed and whatever I could say, if at least one person listened to it, and if we could prevent one person getting abused, that the purpose is solved. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm really thankful for inviting me on this particular platform. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, sir, I have stopped the live stream. It was really an amazing session. And what